Hello there, brothers and sisters. God bless you all. Hope you're having a good day. We're going to get into a pretty interesting teaching today. I'm sure you guys have all heard of this teaching or heard a scenario of this. I just pray that you will put down any preconceived notion and let's just let the scriptures define themselves. And just please listen to the whole message so we can really understand what's going on here. So we're going to be reading in John chapter 8, which is the woman caught in adultery. And if you have listened to some of my previous teachings, you've heard me talk about the Pharisees and kind of what their deal was and who they were. So in this scripture here, you're going to have some Pharisees coming up to Yeshua, coming up to Jesus. And just remember that these men knew the law. They knew the law. They didn't keep the law, but they knew the law. And they were always trying to test Jesus, test Yeshua, trying to kind of tear down his ministry and prove that he didn't really know the scriptures, which would be in these days always the Old Testament. All right, so in John chapter 8, verse 1, it says, Jesus went unto the Mount of Olives, and early in the morning he came again into the temple, and all the people came unto him, and he sat down and taught them. And the scribes and the Pharisees brought unto him a woman taken in adultery. And when they had set her in the midst, they say unto him, Master, this woman was taken in adultery in the very act. Now Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned. But what sayest thou? So this was a test. They were trying to trap him. They were trying to prove that he didn't really know the law. And, they're saying, well, the law says this. What do you say? All right. So let's back up real quick to John chapter 7, verses 37 through 38. This was the day prior to this event happening. In the last day, that great day of the feast, Jesus stood and cried, saying, If any man thirst, let him come unto me and drink. He that believeth on me, as the scripture hath said, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water. So he made this claim the day before, and I'm sure these Pharisees were aware of it, and they knew the scripture so well that when he made that claim, they knew what he was talking about. So what's interesting is, so he made that claim, and then so in verse 5, they say, Now Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned, but what sayest thou? This they said, tempting him, that they might have to accuse him, or something to accuse him. But Jesus, Yeshua, stooped down, and with his fingers wrote on the ground, as though he heard them not. So I've heard different teachings. People say, well, he just doodled on the ground, or he just, he wrote this or wrote that. Like it didn't really mean anything. He was just ignoring them like he didn't hear them. That couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, this guy was God in the flesh. He didn't do anything just doodling or just fiddling around or anything of the nature. So I want to read Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 13. Jeremiah 17:13 says this, O Lord, the hope of Israel, all that forsake thee shall be ashamed, and they that depart from me shall be written in the earth, because they have forsaken the Lord, the fountain of living waters. Think about that. That's one verse that is connecting him making the claim of being living waters. And what does it say? They that depart from me shall be written in the earth, because they have forsaken the Lord, the fountain of living waters. So this can't be proven what he wrote in the earth, but to me, he was writing their names. And of course he would have knew their names. Like, there were people that thought thoughts and he could read their mind. He knew what they were thinking. So he don't think he knew these gentlemen's names? So he's probably sitting there writing their names in the earth because they were forsaking the fountain of living water. They were forsaking the Lord and they didn't even know it. All right. So verse 7 says, so when they continued asking him, he lifted up himself and said unto them, he that is without sin among you, let him cast a stone at her. So a lot of Christianity, a lot of teachers try to say, look, he was saying, hey, if you've ever sinned in your life, you're not worthy of casting a stone. Well, guess what? That's not what the law states. And these men knew the law. The law states in Leviticus chapter 20 and verse 10 that the man and the woman must both be present. And then technically you were supposed to take them to judges, not just to any person or any priest or any rabbi. No. There was a specific protocol. They go to the judges and the judges judge the matter just to make sure you ain't committing murder and just unjustly killing people. So Leviticus 20 verse 10 says, and the man that committeth adultery with another man's wife, even he that committeth adultery with his neighbor's wife, the adulterer and the adulteress shall surely be put to death. Both of them. Both of them. Not one of them, both of them. And they said that she was found in the very act. I mean, like, so how'd he get away? Come on now. Some funny business is going on here. This is not what it seems. So even when he says, he that is without sin among you, cast the first stone. Well, nowhere in the Torah, nowhere in the law does it say that you have to be without sin to cast a stone. So, and these men knew the law. So if that's would have been what he was implying, then they would have said, we got you. We got you. We got you. We knew you didn't know the law. No. Right there, he's implying that you're sinning in this very act because he was not the judges. He was not the judges. He was not the king. I mean, he's the king of kings and he will judge the world. But at that time, he was none of those things. So, and I know that's kind of hard to swallow, just like, hold on a second. I mean, he wasn't. When he comes back, he's gonna, he'll be the Lion of Judah, is when he comes back. But at that time, he was not a king to those people. He was not a judge to those people. He was not a priest to those people. Because even the high priest had to be of the Levites. But anyhow, so when he was saying, those of you that are without sin, cast a stone at her, he's implying that by you even trying to do what you're doing, you're sinning in that very act. And in Deuteronomy chapter 19, verses 16 through 19, let's read there. Deuteronomy 16 or 19, I apologize, 16 through 19. All right, here we are. If a false witness rise up against any man or woman to testify against him or her that which is wrong, then both the men between whom the controversy is shall stand before the Lord, before the priest and the judges, which shall be in those days. And the judges shall make diligent inquisition, and behold, if the witnesses be false witnesses, and hath testified falsely against his brother or sister, then shall ye do unto them as he had thought to have done unto his brother. So shalt thou put the evil away from among you. So there you have it. It's telling you right there, judges. There was judges appointed to hear these cases where, it wouldn't just be, so-and-so made this claim, let's just, boom, death. No. The judges, witnesses, they would be, it'd be like a jury, but a jury on God's standards, not man standards. So, right there, that proves that one, judges were to hear these cases. Two, that if a false witness is trying to bear false witness and have punishment fall upon someone, when it's found out that they're false witnesses, they get the punishment. So by them trying to stone that woman to death, they would have and should have been stoned to death themselves. So that was his point. He that is without sin, meaning in this very act, among you, let him first cast a stone at her. And again, he stooped down and wrote on the ground. Verse 9. And they which heard it, being convicted by their own conscience, went out one by one, beginning at the eldest, even unto the last. And Jesus, or Yeshua, was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. So you see, the elders walked away first because they knew the law that much better. So they were like, dang, he got us. He got us. And they had to, if they had stones, they dropped them and walked away. They might have had them, they might have not. The scriptures don't tell us that. But anyhow, when Jesus had lifted up himself and saw none but the woman, he said unto her, Woman, where are those thine accusers? Hath no man condemned thee? She said, No man, Lord. And Jesus said unto her, Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. Go and sin no more. I mean, he could have said that to anyone because we're all sinners and we all have sinned. But just like he was talking to them about those of you that are not sinning in this very act, cast a stone, proving that he knew they were bearing false witness. By him telling her, go and sin no more, I think he was implying the same thing, that you are sinning in this very act as well. If we go to Exodus 23, verses 1 and 2, we'll read why and how that would have been the case as well. And see from the law, everything from the law. Everything. He didn't break the law. If he broke the law, he would have been sinning. If he would have just said, oh, hey, well, I know the law says this, but I'm going to do it this way. Well, technically, that's breaking the law. It's breaking his own law. And some could argue, well, he can break his own law. Well, what kind of example is that if he just breaks his own law, but then expects others to keep commandments? That don't make any sense. He's not going to break it. He's too righteous and too just to do that. He ain't going to break his own law. That's why he was sinless. He wasn't sinless because he broke his own laws, but because they're his laws, it doesn't matter. No, he never sinned. He kept the law perfectly, was the perfect example for us. Exodus 23, verses 1 and 2. Thou shalt not raise a false report. Put not thine hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness. Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil, neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline after many to wrest, meaning twist, judgment. So, they probably said, look, we're going to have you, grabbed her up, said, we're going to have you go along with this. She probably didn't want to do it. They probably would have said, we're going to do this if you don't, or this or that. I'm sure God would have been more pleased had she said, you know what? It doesn't matter what you're threatening me with. I ain't with the BS that y'all are trying to, put together right here. Like, nope. But she didn't. Understandably, but still, and that is why he said, go and sin no more. Because they're sinning in this very act, and so are you. He didn't just say, hey, if you've ever sinned, you don't have the right to judge anyone. It's complicated, though. I get it. There's scripture that says, judge not lest ye be judged. Well, he also says, judge righteous judgment. So, which is it? What does that mean? To me, when you read judge not lest ye be judged, that means don't be a hypocrite. Don't be sitting here pointing out a certain sin to someone saying, hey, you should eat clean, and you don't practice the same thing. Make righteous judgments. That means learn what righteousness is. Learn the law, obey the law, apply it to yourself, and then, you can go from there. That's why when he says, judge not lest ye be judged, he goes on to talk about getting a speck out of your brother's eye while you got a plank in your own. Get the plank out of your own eye, then you'll see clearly how to get the speck out of your brother's. That's not saying don't even try. No. So let's keep it 100. Let's let scripture define scripture. I mean, that might have been a scenario or a perspective on this situation that you ain't never heard before. But that doesn't make it not true just because you've never heard it. So, you know, I hope this teaching has blessed someone out there. God bless you all. Hope you have a wonderful day. I love you all. Until next time.